What do you got in the mailbag, Abby?
Okay. Who are your way too early predictions for Nebraska's offensive and defensive MVPs?
I mean, Jeff Sims, just based on the position, makes the most sense.
The volume that he's going to be in that offense.
Yeah. Defense.
MJ Sherman.
Ooh, good one. Good one. I'll go Reimer.
Okay.
Because I think he's going to get a lot of tackles.
Well, he's led them in tackles 2 straight years by a long ways. Yeah. Even missing 2 games last year.
I think he's going to do what you think he could do and put his name towards the top of the record books.
Well, if he has the sort of year that he's had the last 2, he'll easily become Nebraska's all-time 3rd leading tackler behind Barrett Root and Jerry Murtaugh. If he has a spectacular season, if he gets 100 tackles, he'll be number 2. I believe he'll pass Murtaugh.
So I'll go him.
So yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And it's not like has benefited that much from COVID. His freshman year, he had 11 tackles. So this is basically he'll do it over a kind of a conventional time period. Offensive, if it's not Sims, Kemp would be the guy I would go to.
Not
next.
Grant.
No, I'd go Kemp because you know what's going to happen. They're going to use a short passing game a lot, and Kemp's going to be targeted a lot. And if he breaks some tackles, gets loose, he could have a pretty dynamic year. Yeah, so I'd go Kemp.
With those running backs too, I don't know if any of them are going to get the volume to be in that discussion. I think the share is going to limit the numbers they're going to put up.
Defense, Sherman, I mean, it's hard to pick linebackers because we don't know exactly who they're going to be and how they're going to be used. So it's God. If you're a Nebraska fan, you hope Ty Robinson's their MVP. I mean, you want one of those linemen to rise up and become. I don't want to say the word dominant, but close.
Look like a pro.
Yeah, look like a pro. Look like an NFL player.
All right, Abby, what's next?
Okay, if you could bring back one dormant rivalry for Nebraska, who would it be and why?
Should we take Oklahoma out of it? Because that's like the obvious
one. I got one. Go ahead. You guys, you won't pick the one I'm thinking.
I already know what you're going to pick.
I'd like to see Nebraska play Texas.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be fun.
I mean, just there was a lot of, I mean, Texas is 9-1 against Nebraska in the Big 12 era.
God.
9-1. The only win came
God almighty
in the 97 conference title game.
And they slaughtered them. Right.
And of those 10 games, Nebraska was favored probably in 7 of them, maybe 8. I mean,
how about the red out around the world game?
Oh,
when they made the red out and Texas somehow came in and beat those teams.
Was that 2010?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that Texas team was a 2-touchdown dog.
That was a bad Texas team.
Yeah. Robin, who's yours?
So are we limiting it strictly to conference? Like Big 8, Big 12?
No, I think
anybody, dude.
Yeah.
Miami.
Okay. That's a good one. I wasn't going to pick that one.
Miami.
Limited, I mean, just to rekindle those Orange Bowl.
Just do like a 2-game swap.
Well, do you remember what it felt like in what that game felt like when Miami was here?
Yes, it was awesome.
What year was that, guys?
2014.
What was
and
that?
And they went
like?
there in 15, right?
Yeah, they went there in 15.
What was that scene like in Memorial Stadium?
Incredible.
A hell of a lot better than the one that was in Miami. When we were in Miami, they were trying to fire Al Golden.
Somebody had a plane, remember? And they had
the fire Al Golden over
banner
the
on the plane.
And it was hotter than hell. It was a 3:30 game in September in Miami.
That sun was unbelievable.
That game against Miami here was the Amir Abdullah show.
Yes.
And
Randy Gregory.
Late in that game, Gregory and Malik Collins made a huge play.
Yes.
Fourth down, I'd take Kansas State. I'd take Kansas State.
That'd be my second pick.
Yeah, I'd take Kansas State because of what Chris Kleiman's doing down there right now. He's building a little bit of a monster down there, and I think it'd be fun if Rule gets this going. If they're consistently 2 top 20 teams, if Rule could get that going, how fun would that be to get that thing going?
Don't you think Iowa will go after him if the Iowa job opens? Like,
yes,
that's the guy.
100%.
They have to.
And he won't go.
He'll stay.
He'll stay at Kansas State.
It's got a good thing going.
Yep.
There's a lot of rumblings, even like Matt Campbell would be a target.
Hey, guys, how fun would that be for us if it got going with Kansas State? We just drive. We're just driving down Manhattan.
One of the biggest reasons why I would say that day trip.
Oh, it's fun.
It's 2 hours from Lincoln.
Super fun.
11 a.m. kickoff. You leave in the morning.
Yeah. It's fun.
Oh, we did some one-dayers. Like,
Yeah.
That was a fun atmosphere there too.
Oh, yeah.
Not that big of a stadium, but it was fun.
what's next?
Okay,
Abby?
our next one. If you could bring back a former Nebraska assistant coach from last season's staff, who would it be?
And I want to preface, we're not knocking Matt Rule's staff here. We're just,
Yeah, that's a tough one for us right now.
I don't want to like act like I'm saying there's a guy on this staff that shouldn't be on, because these are all qualified guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if there's one that would make sense to me, it would be Sean Beckton. I think you look at him as a tight ends coach. He's really good. I think he's a great leader of young men. He's a great recruiter in Florida and Georgia. So he's a guy that when you look at it, like highly qualified tight ends coach, and did a lot of, I mean, you can't really be critical of anything he did as a coach at Nebraska.
Yeah, you can't be critical of any of these guys right now, in my opinion.
No.
I've said consistently with the Rule staff that
Mickey at the time, when it was like going on, like made sense, but obviously that changed as the story changed.
what I've been saying is you got to give these guys a year or two before you really judge them. That said, Barrett Ruud's an excellent linebackers coach, and I think he'd look good on this staff. Barrett's a great technician. I mean, you talk about Reimer. Now Barrett, his room was a little light, a little light on talent, but Barrett knows what he's doing. I mean, he's one of the best. I mean, if you talk to coaches that coach with him, he's one of the best technicians around. That's who I'd say.
What about Travis Fisher?
Fisher's good, but man, Cooper's
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Cooper's so entrenched in the player personnel part of
Right.
it. You know what I'm saying?
be giving up Matt Rule's right-hand man.
Yeah.
How about
That ain't
Mike
happening.
Dawson? Just with what he did developing that front of Nebraska. I mean, they had a pretty good defensive front.
Mm-hmm.
They developed well.
Dawson's good, but I like Knighton's NFL experience.
And that's a good counter. I mean,
I love the Knighton NFL experience. I love it. I love coaches who have 6 years, 7 years, 10 years of playing experience in the NFL, because I know if you guys were a player, if I were a player, that I would listen a little closer to a guy that was drafted. Well, he wasn't. I think he was a third. I don't know what Knighton was, but played in the NFL, made an impact in the NFL.
Won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough question to answer because we haven't seen these new guys coach.
Right.
All right, Abby,
Okay.
what's next?
What is the status of the Go Big project, and will the football team move in before the season starts?
Great question. It's dicey because everybody can see that construction cam and where it's at, and they got a ways to go. I mean,
They do.
They were pouring concrete just this week. The best case scenario, as we know, was they were going to get access to the locker room and the weight room to start fall camp. That, if I'm just being honest, that seems like a long shot. So what does that mean? Like, do they pause that part of it and wait until the October bye week, or there's a week off to kind of transition it in the season? Because you don't want to rush this. Like, you don't want to like go in where it's like 90% ready. You want it to be 100% ready.
Well, then they won't be in there for a while.
Yeah.
But then
Winter.
the entire project itself, like how much longer will that take to finish?
You don't, Sean? What about just moving into the locker room and have the weight room?
That makes sense.
Would it be ready though?
Yeah.
Like they'll be in. They will be in that locker room in the weight room soon. It's a matter of, will they be in there to start August camp, or will it be later in the fall?
Okay.
And I do think the leadership of Nebraska has to kind of make that decision like this week. I mean, they have to kind of know what's going to happen, because this is a big decision. A lot of moving parts.
It is a big decision. You don't want disruption. As we know now, we're acutely aware of. It's hard to win in the Big Ten. You don't want disruptions like that. I wouldn't move the team in there in October. If they're not moving in August, then I'm saying we're not moving in until after the season.
And there are some early supply chain things that caused delays. There was a coaching change where, maybe Matt Rule wanted to rework a few things here and there.
He
did. But I heard
recovery.
one supply chain thing that delayed the project. There like a 2-month delay because they had to wait on something to come off the ports of LA to get in.
Ports of LA.
And they couldn't get anything done until that thing got dropped in, because it's a big part of. So there are things, obviously, just like with the world right now. I mean, I know getting a garage door could take some people 7-8 months, to the point where if you're building a home, the first thing you did was order your garage doors.
Yeah.
And even then you may not get them. And they had a plywood shut your garage door in order for the bank to allow it to close.
And coaches are such creatures of habit too. Like I can't imagine like you're in the thick of it in the middle of a season and all of a sudden, all right, everybody pack up. We're moving over to this new facility that we have never been in before. Like I just don't think that happens. I think that you'd be forcing the issue at that point.
Final question.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about road trips, and you got one coming up soon. So what work, like road trip or flight, has turned out to be the worst or the most chaotic one?
Oh, God. You guys.
I know you've been on a lot of them.
Well, last year's Big Ten Media Days.
That's got to be up there.
Was a disaster. All accounts. I wasn't working with you guys yet. I mean, that was its own disaster that we had to kind of manage our way through.
That aside.
But B, our flights in Charlotte. We land in Charlotte. Normal. Everything's on time. We all go to the bathroom. We come out. Our flight from Charlotte to Indy's canceled.
Just not postponed.
Not postponed.
It was late enough. There was no other flight going out.
So everyone in the whole airport's reacting the same way. On the fly, I get on the phone, call Delta or American, and I'm like, what's close to Indy? What's close to? I see Cincinnati's close. Louisville's close. So like, can we get to one of these places? And we got our flights moved from Charlotte to Cincinnati. But then we had to rent a car in Cincinnati when we landed and then drive into Indy and get it to the hotel at like 2 a.m, maybe even later than 2.
And it was a 8 a.m. wake up call, right?
Well, 8 a.m. start time, not a wake up call.
Because Frost was the first one, right?
Yeah.
He started before it actually started.
That was wonderful.
And they were out of car. Like the place I rented a car was closed. We had to cancel. And then there was only one option, and all they had were pickup trucks. And so the four of us, Greg Peterson as well, we squeezed into a pickup truck and got to Indy, and
it was not good. That was not good.
Then coming home,
we
were on Delta.
Yeah, and there's a coil on smoking.
Smoke starts coming into the cabin.
Yeah, out of the vents as we're on the tarmac.
Smoking. Right? The coils, I guess, were
in the fire department
burning plastic,
and so our flight got canceled, or delayed. And then we were going to have to stay overnight in Minneapolis. So we just rented a minivan and drove back.
Stayed in Peoria. Got into Peoria, Illinois that night.
That was beautiful.
The cops were, remember when we pulled up, there was another incident going on at the nightclub in the hotel. And they were like, literally like cops. Like, I'm like, oh, they knew Sipple's coming. Gosh darn it.
Sip got thrown into the fire on that one. Welcome to the party.
Peoria.
This ain't the Journal-Star anymore.
I'm trying to think if that has to be up there though. That one.
Yeah, I mean, from start to finish, that was by far the worst trip we've ever had. We've had very good luck, more often than not, with our travel.
Yeah,
like I can't imagine any like huge disasters.
I mean, we've managed to like stay in Penn State like kings.
The Gator Bowl or whatever.
Oh yeah, Gator Bowl
or Capital One Bowl.
No, Gator Bowl, Jacksonville.
We sat at the airport all day, basically waiting for a flight, and it kept getting postponed because there was weather in Chicago.
No, it was a Southwest Airlines computer issue or weather issue that canceled everything in Chicago.
That's right. So anyways, out of Chicago. And we're just waiting, and it just keeps saying delayed until it's like to the point where it's like evening. And we're like, this isn't going to happen. And so there was no other flights, and their next flight available was like days.
But we got on the plane.
Are we talking Joe Gans right now, Gator Bowl?
No, we're talking Tommy Armstrong, Quincy and Nunn. 99-yard touchdown pass.
Georgia Gator Bowl.
Yes.
Okay.
So anyway,
we got on the plane, and the plane was on the runway, and we're like, all right, we're at least going to get to Chicago. We'll be closer to home. And then they took the plane back.
Brutal.
And I just told Rob, and I go, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be the first guy off.
And he did.
And I'm going to sprint to the gate because every one of these people on this plane are going to be freaking sprinting up to the gate.
Power move by Sean.
Yeah, big time.
And I was the first guy up, and they go, yeah, we can't get you out of here for like 4 days. And I'm like, well, that ain't going to work.
No.
So we somehow got our rental car back, which was like a Chevy Suburban. It was a sweet ride. And we drove all the way back.
Straight shot.
From
20 some hours.
Jacksonville. 20 hours, 18, 20.
Yeah.
And we were just like, all right, here's the deal. Everyone's going to do a 3-hour shift, and it's a rotating wheel.
I did the first one. I got us through Atlanta, which was fine because it was like 2:00 in the morning. There's no traffic. Then we turned it over to Greg, GP, So he used to live in Tennessee in Nashville for a long time. So he knows
He
the
knows that one.
mountains and how windy it gets. So I mean, he was going like, I don't know how fast, but just like when this Suburban just darting around these corners, pitch black. And I'm glad that he was the one that handled that stretch.
Young
That's a
Dan
trip.
Hoppin earned his man stripes. So I mean,
He did.
I don't know.
He
if
grew
Dan-
up that day.
I mean, he wasn't used to a late. I mean, it's a grind when
It
you
was a grind.
when you work.
He's going through St. Louis at like rush hour
That's a real-
traffic
I didn't
on
know you
zero
guys
sleep.
did that. I had no idea you did that.
We pulled back into Lincoln around 5:00 in the evening.
God, that's awful.
So that would be up there.
Yeah.
That's got to be up there. I've never had anything like that.
Well, you guys would drive so many road games, so you wouldn't fly as much. So it'd be a little bit more controllable.
Yeah. Always fun hearing flight stories.
So those are our two, and Robin and I have traveled together since 2008. So I guess we're fairly lucky.
Yeah, I'm going to say if we've had 2 major incidents and that many trips, I'll take it.